What's up, guys? Welcome to Sony Simplified, the show that gives you simple tips and tricks on how to get the most out of your Sony products. I'm your host, Craig from Sony, and I do all the hard work so you don't have to. And I'm excited about today's episode because I think I'm going to answer some burning questions that we've had regarding Sony Pictures Core app. So hopefully today I'm going to teach you guys kind of what it is, kind of what's special about it, and hopefully I'm going to be able to walk you guys through how to set up the app and kind of navigate the app and kind of get to know it a little bit better. So today is going to be all about how to get the most out of your Sony Pictures Core app. All right, so before we get started, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, share this with your friends, share this with your family, share this with anyone you can. This is a Sony Connect channel, and we're really trying to connect with you guys. So to do that, obviously, we want to interact with you guys more. So if you guys have any topics you guys want to hear on these lives in the future, please throw those out there. Speaking of that, we are live. So that means the chat is active. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, throw that in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer it. If I don't have an answer, too bad. I'm kidding. If I don't have an answer, I will definitely do my best to get you that answer somehow. I'll call a lifeline or somebody and get that answer for you. But yeah, let's have some fun tonight. Like I said, we're live, so any questions, throw it in there. I'm going to start with a question of my own. And since we're talking about the Sony Pictures Core app, I want to know what Sony TV you guys are using to watch the Sony Pictures Core app on. I'll go first. I just set it up on my Sony BRAVIA 5, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. I want to know, though, what you guys are using. So put in the comments, put in the chat what Sony TV you guys have and are using Sony Pictures Core app on. All right. Before we get started, though, I know we're going to do a quick, like 30-second video just to give you guys kind of an introduction as to what Sony Pictures Core app is. So Marvin, go ahead and roll the clip. All right, we're back. That was pretty cool, right? Sony Pictures Core is a pretty cool little app out there. So I guess the big thing here is really, what is Sony Pictures Core app, right? I'm sure you guys have heard it. You probably see advertisement for it. It's really cool, but I want to take this back a little further. It used to be called the BRAVIA Core app. Then we switched it to the Sony Pictures Core app. And really that's kind of a testament to what we do for you guys, right? We are content creators, and we want you guys to associate with us the fact that Sony Pictures makes content. So if we went from BRAVIA Core to Sony Pictures Core, right? So a lot of cores going on. And I bet you guys didn't know that Core actually stands for something, right? So Core actually stands for Center of Real Entertainment. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, when you think of it, think of Sony Pictures Center of Real Entertainment. I think that's really cool. All right, so what is cool about that, though, is Sony Pictures Core is our exclusive streaming service, right? And I want you guys to think of it, though, differently, right? It's not like a typical conventional streaming service that's out there, right? When you think of streaming services, you think like subscription-based, like, oh, I got to sign up for something, and then when I'm on there, then I can see the content, right? I got to pay for it, and then I see what's available to kind of look at. It's different, right? Sony Pictures Core is more of think of it like an a la carte kind of app that's out there, right? So it's a Sony library, and it offers like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 2,000 different pieces of content that's on there, but it's a la carte, right? So you can sign up for it for free, no charge, and you can actually navigate it, right? You can look around, scroll through content and see what you like, and then you can actually purchase content, right? You can rent movies, buy movies, etc. But you don't have to be an active, paid member to actually look at it, right? Then you can buy content if you like this movie or you like that movie, right? But you can see first before you buy it, right? So it doesn't tie you down to anything. And if you didn't know, or if you haven't seen, we do run a lot of like specials, a lot of promotions with this, with BRAVIA, or with Sony Pictures Core on your Sony BRAVIA TV. Is you'll see stuff like, for instance, my BRAVIA 5 that I just set up. I set that up and I got 5 free credits to use on the Sony Pictures Core app, right? And we run that, it varies by model, right? Sony model of the TV. It also varies by retailer, so it's kind of different. It also varies by region as well. So what you can see though is during these promotion periods is you might get 5, 10, or even 15 credits for free when you buy a TV to use in the Sony Pictures Core app. And that equates to essentially 5, 10, or 15 free movies that you can use as well. So I think that's really cool. But on top of that, I know I mentioned that it's a free non-subscription service, but there's a streaming kind of service you can get with it. So you get the streaming packages, and right now that promotion with the 5, 10, or 15 free credits, you can also get 12 months or 24 months of the streaming package included with it, right? So that's pretty cool. So for instance, I got the 5 credits and 12 months of that service with it. And what's cool about that is that streaming service gives you access to, it's like 100 free curated movies that kind of get rotated in and out and stuff. But essentially I can watch 100 free movies, and I can also purchase my own, 5 other movies that I might like on top of that. So that's really cool. This app goes back to XR model TVs. So I believe that's like 2021 and stuff. So if you have a 2021 model XR TV, you have access to the Sony Pictures Core app, right? And I wanted to key that in because it is exclusive to certain TVs and stuff. But once you're on the app, like I said, you can cash in for those credits, or you can use those 100 free movies, just watch through that as well. Now, not to let people that don't have this promotion period kind of feel left out by any means. Anybody can sign up for it, right? And anybody can get access to those 100 free curated movies. So if anyone signs up for it, even if you don't have the promotion period stuff that's going on, you actually do get a 30-day trial to the streaming package, where you have access for 30 days to watch those 100 free movies that are curated. And then close to the end of that trial period, you'll get notified that you can actually go ahead and go forward with a subscription if you want to pay for that as well. So again, that's some cool features that you have that's exclusive to the Sony Pictures Core app that's not available anywhere, right? It's a la carte. You can kind of do what you want with it. So I'm gonna check chat real quick, see if there's any questions. Like I said, that's just the start of what we're gonna cover today. I just wanna make sure you guys are aware of what the Sony Pictures Core app is and what it does for you. All right, so we got Darkio. Hey, what's up? Hi guys, I don't have a Sony TV yet, but I think I can get it on PS5 someday. So yeah, depending on the area, the Sony Pictures Core app should be available on your PS4, PS4 Pro, or PS5. Again, though, it's dependent on region. So I want to point that out as well. All right, we got hi. I love Sony Picture Clarity. Yes, Sony Picture Clarity. I mean, Sony's king of clarity with that stuff. All right. All right, let's move on to some other stuff. So another thing I want to talk about is kind of what's special about the Sony Picture Core app. And there's a lot of stuff that's special about it, but I want to key in on something that's kind of important to a lot of people, right? So think about a lot of people out there that still prefer to watch stuff on physical media, right? Buying a Blu-ray player, buying Blu-ray movies, right? They want to do that because you do get higher quality when you use a Blu-ray disc, right? When you're playing stuff back. The problem is nowadays, everyone's like, I don't even really know too many places you can even get physical like Blu-rays anymore in store. You can order stuff online and everything, but it's harder and harder to find that stuff accessibly. So you're kind of a lot of people are getting forced into the streaming realm, and they want to maintain that quality, right? And so one of the big things with the Sony Pictures Core app is there's an exclusive feature on there called Pure Stream. That you can get 80 megabits per second streaming through that feature, right? And what that does is essentially giving you quality streaming right through the app itself, which is really rare when it comes to streaming services, right? Because think about most popular streaming services. I mean, you're getting like maybe 25 megabits per second streaming. At the higher end, like on some higher end streaming services, maybe up to like 40 megabits per second streaming. This is going to give you up to 80 megabits per second, which is, I mean, it's a ton of clarity, a ton of detail that you're getting because you're just getting more information sent to you. So that's a huge thing, and I really want to point it out. Now, there are some caveats with that, right? First of all, the content that is available on the Sony Pictures Core has to support the Pure Stream format. It is recommended that you're streaming your internet connection is 115 megabit per second or higher, right? That's recommended. Now, minimum, it does need to be at least 43 megabits per second minimum requirement to even use PureStream at all. And then you would want, if you're using Wi-Fi, you would want to have an 802.11 router to be able to access, or modem to be able to access the content accessibly with PureStream. But yeah, I think that's pretty crazy, right? And I want to break this down because I know this is simplified and I want to make everything as simple as possible for you guys. So I want to kind of break down what the 80 megabits per second versus like a lower, like 25 megabits per second. What kind of, like, in layman's term, that means. And off the top of my head, I'm thinking of something like, we all can imagine the days where we used to have to study for tests, right? So imagine being able to study all day for a test, right? You have a test on, let's say, a Monday. You spend all Sunday studying for that test, everything you possibly can get, right? All the information, you're studying it all, right? You have a long day of doing that. And then the next day you go to take that test and you have all the information ready to go, right? You're ready to rock. You're like, I got this. I know all the answers because I studied all day for this, right? And then compare that to maybe someone who's cramming, right? Now it's right before bed. You're taking that little chunk of time right before bed and you're like, I'm going to cram this. I got a test tomorrow, exam. I'm going to try and learn as much as I can, right? The next day, you're going to be struggling. You're going to be like, I don't remember this quite as much, right? The information is not going to be there. The detail in what you remember from studying isn't really there. So that's the difference, right? 80 megabits per second is like studying all day for an exam versus 25 megabits per second, which is kind of like, oh, I just crammed for that test. So you're going to get more detail with that. So I wanted to bring that up because I think that it's off the top of my head. I hope you guys understood that, but I want to make it kind of simple for you guys to understand what that means. Now, the other thing that I think is really cool about the Sony Pictures Core app is going to be that it's the largest catalog right now of IMAX enhanced content. So IMAX enhanced content is basically going to be content that is either shot in IMAX or remastered in IMAX, which essentially is going to give you more clarity, more color, more contrast, right? More detail, because it's obviously with IMAX engineers and stuff like that. But the biggest thing is also it has DTSX support for audio, and a lot of people forget, that's immersive audio. A lot of people forget that audio and picture go kind of hand in hand, right? If you got good picture, you want really good audio, right? So IMAX Enhanced gives you both that, really good picture and really good audio. But the other thing it does is, you might see a lot of people out there, a lot of you guys might even be thinking this, is that there's movies you watch that have the black bars on top and black bars on the bottom. It's widescreen. And there's a lot of people that are like, I don't really like that. I want a full screen. Now, I'm not saying it gives you full screen, but basically IMAX enhanced content is roughly 26% more image in the shot you're watching. So I'm not saying the black bars go away, but they're smaller and there's more information, right? So there's information in those black bars that you're not getting typically, right? IMAX Enhanced will give you that information, or some of that information that was missing there, right? So that's kind of a big deal. That's kind of a cool thing. And obviously Sony Pictures Core has the largest catalog of IMAX enhanced content, right? And there's, like I said, there's movies that are shot in IMAX, which are stunning, honestly. But keep that in mind that we have that as well. So number one is obviously Sony Pictures Core is an awesome a la carte streaming service. Two is we have PureStream, which is going to give you way more information and more clarity in your content. And number three is that it's going to have IMAX enhanced content, right? The largest library out there. So that's those kind of three key things I want to kind of bring up about Sony Pictures Core. But now I want to check if there's any other questions in the comments. So again, if you have questions about this, please feel free to drop those in the comments if you're just joining us. Don't be afraid. I like to think I'm a pro at this and I know more than I want to. But toss those in the chat and I'll answer anything for you. All right, not seeing a ton of questions right now, but that's fine. It might change in the future here. So I think now let's switch gears and kind of go into a walkthrough on how to set it up, set up Sony Pictures Core app and just kind of navigate it. I'll teach you guys a little bit about that. All right, so first and foremost, you'll see here is, and I'm gonna watch it. So if you don't see me looking at the camera the whole time, I'm trying to navigate what I shot earlier, right? So you're gonna open the app from the home screen and you're gonna see here, the Sony Pictures Core app is gonna open up. Now, if you pause right here, I want to bring something up, is that upon opening the app, you may have, this is my experience when I first got the TV, is it may ask you immediately like, hey, there's actually an update to this app. please update the app and then reopen. So just go ahead and hit a continue on this. And then it's going to go ahead and probably take you over to the Google Play Store where you can go ahead and update the app. So you're going to see here that you can just click on update. It might take a couple minutes. We kind of sped through it. Once it updates, you're going to want to relaunch the app. And now here you're going to come to a screen that you're going to want to create an account or log in, right? So if you have a login already, you already created an account, here all you got to do is log into it, right? We're, for this purpose, we're going to kind of create an account to start you guys from scratch and just show you how to do this. All right, so click on create account, super simple, and you're going to type in an email address. You know, here we're going to use something like joe@imadinosaur.com or something. But anything you want, you're going to agree to the terms and conditions with it, right? So that's pretty simple. You're going to go hit next on that. Then you're going to go ahead and put a password in. So obviously you want to be secure, so make sure your password is very secure when it comes to this. And then you're going to enter your date of birth. So simple, just enter your date of birth. Not a big deal, pretty basic. And then you're going to see here, pause that for a second for me, Marvin. Right here, you're going to see that when I registered, I got the 5 free credits added to the account because we're in that promotion period that I was kind of talking about earlier, where I got 5 free credits. And you'll notice here that I get the streaming package for 12 months. So I got 5 free credits added to spend on 5 different movies in the app. And I have 12 months of streaming package with this as well. All right, go ahead and hit OK with this. And then you're going to see this here. This is your peer stream, right? So this was what I was talking about, is that peer stream, 80 megabits per second, if the content can support it. But basically here, you're going to enable it or say not at this time. You can do either one, but it is going to tell you, kind of like I mentioned, that, hey, this is going to use a little bit more of your internet data package. So make sure you're okay with utilizing more of your internet data here. So here, I think we're going to choose enable peer stream, but go ahead and hit next. Super simple. So very easy, right? We just create an account, and now we're going to go into the next portion of it, which I'm going to kind of teach you a little bit about how you can navigate it. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and answer any questions that I saw pop up. I did see some people pop in here with some questions. All right. So does Sony Pictures Core still support Dolby Vision format? So Sony Pictures Core right now, I'm seeing IMAX Enhanced is the biggest thing we have on there. I'll double check and see if Dolby Vision formats are on there. I didn't go through a ton of the content to see, but we're going to get to that because there's a spot where I'm going to point out where you can actually find all that information. And then, hi, just got my BRAVIA 9. Wonder if the Sony Core Pictures Core will have a paid plan in the future because I have the new TV. There was 8 redeemable tickets. So that's actually a really good question. I want to point out. So Lee L, that's a great question. So if you just got the Sony Pictures Core or a brand new TV that got you the credits, you can actually use those with that. That's kind of associated with the account, right? So if you log on to your account that you have maybe on other TVs, you can access those credits at different TVs if that's the question you're kind of asking here. Now, as far as the paid plans go, I kind of mentioned that earlier. You might not have jumped on at the same time when I was talking about it, but essentially there is a paid plan you can get in terms of if you're talking about the streaming package. There is, so once you kind of use up like 12 or 24 months, or if you're using that 30-day trial of the streaming package, yes, you can. There's a paid plan to continue that as well. Obviously, rates change. Rates vary by location, stuff like that, or region. So I can't really talk about pricing or anything like that, but yes, there is an ability to continue a paid plan and stuff. And then obviously, once you're in the app, you can use those credits that you have for any of the movies that you'd like to purchase. And then, yeah, you can buy a la carte, like I mentioned, other movies within the app as well. So great question, Lee. All right, does PlayStation support the BRAVIA Core? Cool. Sans, I'm gonna call you Sans because I can't really, Sans SSIVR. We're gonna say that. That's a cool name. Does PlayStation support BRAVIA Core? I did mention that earlier, that yes, it does. PS4, PS4 Pro, and PS5 support BRAVIA Core. Now, again, by region, it's dependent on what your region is, but it should be available for you. All right. X Darkio, you got a question here. It's 5 credits, not 10 anymore. Again, I mentioned it a little earlier, but yes, 5, 10, and 15 we have going on right now for promotions. But that is dependent, I'll mention it again, that's dependent on the model TV you got, potentially dependent also on the retailer and region that you're at. So yeah, there are 3 different options for you right now: 5, 10, or 15 credits. All right, Joey B, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? All right, let's move on. So now we're going to navigate through the actual site itself. So I encourage you guys, once you guys register and get in here, you can go ahead and start navigating through the app and everything. All right, so let's take a look. Scroll through, you can see all the content. Like I said, you can get 30 days trial with this. You can get 12 months or 2 years of the actual streaming package that's out there as well. So, all right, here we go. Ready, Marvin? Let's play it. I'm going to walk you guys through some of the steps that are involved with this, right? So obviously you can go through it as you want, but we're going to start, I believe, I'm going to start here and talk about how you go through the settings and change some of the settings if you want on this. All right, so if you scroll down all the way to settings at the very bottom of the screen, here you're going to walk through. There's a few things you can see, right? So you'll notice that there's a couple options for you. We're going to cover, right? So transaction history. It's going to show you guys the credits. And I want to point out too, if you want to pause it real quick here, Marvin. Also on the home screen, I'll point it out when we get back to it, is at the very bottom left corner. And I think Marvin will have an arrow pointing to it, but at the very bottom left corner, there is the 5 credits. It's showing that whatever credits you guys have will be down there at the bottom corner. All right, but here, it's also showing you that the 5 credits are active. And that also gives you the date, right? So here it's showing that I got a year with these credits that expire next June for me. All right, and then you got redeem. So if you have a voucher or anything like that, you can just redeem it here. And then you notice the next step down, it'll show you the streaming package when it expires. So I have the streaming package again for 1 year. So mine expires next June. With it, you'll also see below that is the credit expiration date. So whether or not you use these credits, right, the 5 credits, they will still expire on the date listed here. So here it's going to expire 1 year after I got them. Obviously, you can reset your password here, log out of the account, etc. So we're going to go back home with this, or actually here, frequently asked questions. Sorry. So there's another section here. You can easily scan this code and go to the frequently asked questions for this. Obviously, you have your version that's available, open source. There's a lot of just information on here. That's just stuff you might want to know, might not want to know. But here is your audio formats that you got here. So you can actually change this stuff. So it's going to be on default. It's going to be toggled on here, which I often recommend just leaving it on default. But if you want, you can change it to Dolby Atmos. Now it's going to warn you that not all the content you watch is going to be in Dolby Atmos. So it's you can hit OK. You can leave it on Dolby Atmos. So if it plays back in Dolby Atmos, it will. Same thing, DTSX. It's going to warn you if you want it automatically in DTSX. Not all content supports it. And same thing with 5.1. So you can put those on if you want, but again, not all of the content is supported with those formats. So I recommend that you just leave it set to the original default, which we're going to do here, and just set it to default, which is probably the safest way to be, honestly. And then here you also have, like I said, if you want peer stream enabled, you can just easily go to the settings and turn peer stream on or off. Remember, it's going to warn you that it's 80 megabits per second and that potentially you might use more data. So again, this might be something where you want to come here, turn it on for certain times or certain movies, and then turn it off for other movies. Like I said, it's up to you guys. It's your data, everything like that. But we give you the option, and I think it's a really cool feature. So, all right, moving on. So, like I said, for this instance, we're just going to leave it on with that. All right, and once you're there, we'll go back to the home page, and I'll show you a couple other things here, which would be, we're going to have access. I'll show you the largest library of IMAX enhanced content here. So you got the IMAX content, right? You can easily, right? Like I mentioned, it's really good. It's mastered by IMAX. It's got, sometimes shot in IMAX. Here you got a ton of different really high named, titles that are available for you guys. It's cool. Scroll through it, take a look at it. There's a ton of options for you. Like I said, it's the largest catalog of IMAX enhanced content. So you spend some time doing this. It's pretty cool. Here you see me just kind of scrolling through it. So then you're going to want to hit home, and then we're going to go into the search, right? So let's say there's just a title that you want to see. Remember, these are Sony Pictures titles, right? And there's about 2,000 titles already. So you can always type in something and see if it's on here if you want a specific title or anything. So just click it in there and search for it if you want. Then you can always move down to these are the movies that are included, right? So I talked about the free 30-day trial. I talked about the 12 months like I have, or the 24 months that you can get. But this is going to show you the 100 movies that are included with it. So look through that as well if you want. And then you got basically it's called Studio Access. This is kind of cool. This is where you got extras, you got behind the scenes stuff, you've got, blooper reels, all that stuff through here. I encourage you guys to kind of play through that as well. If there's a movie that you guys were like, hey, I really like this movie and I just want to see some extra takes or other content around it, this is where you're going to go. It's Studio Access. And I think that's a really cool feature that Sony has. Obviously, having our hand in making content, we're able to get you a lot of this really cool behind the scenes stuff. And I love it. And I'm having a really good time watching this content there too. All right. I think the last thing I'm going to kind of talk about is creating, and pause here if you can for me. There's a few things on this page. So we clicked on obviously a title here, and I want to kind of point out a few things for you guys, which one is highlighted already is you can see here it's asking me if I want to redeem this movie for one of my credits, right? So there I would just click on redeem for one credit if I wanted to do that. Easy. But at the very top, I kind of mentioned, I know someone, we had a question about Dolby Vision format, right? That was Ozzy had brought that up. Up here, it's going to show you all the formats that you can actually watch this movie in, right? We got IMAX, we got DTS audio, we got Pure Stream it's available in. Like I said, not all titles are going to have that Pure Stream capability, but there you got your other audio formats as well. So I just want to point that out that at the very top of the titles, that's where you can kind of see what the format's going to be playing back in with these as well. And then from there, you can just click on add to your list. Here we're going to click on add to our list, and then super simple. If you want to add a bunch of movies to it for watching later, you can do that. But then you're going to go up to your library, and there you're going to see all the titles that you've added to your library, and it's super simple. Like I said, you can add a ton of movies there. If there's movies that you want to eventually buy, throw them in there as well. But yeah, it's super easy, and that's really the walkthrough. I mean, it's nothing crazy to it. Like I said, I encourage you guys to walk through it, and pause right here real quick for me if you can. I just want to answer some questions if I see in the chat. All right, so it's a PlayStation BRAVIA Core. We got the. Let me double check. Sans has a question too. I'll double check on that if it's the same exact one that's available. The question was, is the PlayStation BRAVIA Core app the same as on the TVs? That one I'm going to probably double check with you for that one, but I'll find out. Not a problem. Will there be an update on if we can use Sony Pictures Core on the PS5 and Sony TVs? Right now I have separate email for PS5 and Sony TV. I'll double check that as well and see, because I know, yeah, I think a lot of times if you have two different emails, I know that a lot of people do end up using the Sony, if they have the Sony PlayStation, like the credits that they use and stuff like that. For PlayStation, was it PlayStation Live access? I think that a lot of times a lot of people use the same email. I'll double check for you on that though and see what we can do. Will the US ever get BRAVIA Core app on US Android phones? So also a great question. The answer to that is right now it's only available on Sony Xperia phones. So if you have a Sony Xperia Android phone, then yes. If not, then I don't know of anything. I'm not going to speak for the future, but currently I haven't heard anything about that going to all Android phones or not. Yeah, thanks. Darky, you kind of mentioned that it's only on the Sony Xperia phones. Let's see. Will I get credit if I buy a new Sony TV? Will the credits be carried over to my PlayStation BRAVIA Core app? So good question. Yeah, so I kind of mentioned that earlier is if you have, as long as you register with the same email account, then yes, it should transfer over to the same email account that you have the Sony Pictures Core app on. So yes, that should answer your question there. All right, last thing I want to touch about with the Sony Pictures Core app I want to bring up, and we'll play it here, is I want to talk about Sony Pictures Core calibrated mode, which is huge because again, we're talking about Sony's experience with making content and being content, creators and working with content creators and stuff like that. What I want to do though is kind of show you this, right? So Sony Pictures Core calibrated is us working with Sony Pictures creators, and they're saying like, hey, this is what the TV looks best with our content, or this is the setting that looks best on our content with these TVs. So what you're going to do is click on the remote. You're showing the remote. There's the wrench icon, super simple to see. And at the bottom of the screen, it'll pull up, pictures and sound, right? So you're going to want to pick on picture and sound menu. Click on that. Obviously, you're going to click on picture here, and it's going to bring up your picture settings. Super easy. You'll see here it's already on. Sony Pictures calibrated mode is already on. But if you don't want it, you can turn it off, right? You can turn it off, and then from there you have your other picture modes. You know, if you like vivid, if you like standard, if you like, you know, professional mode, any of those modes, you can jump into that and do it as your heart desires, right? This, again, it's another thing Sony's great at, is giving you guys, it's tailoring to your own needs, right? If you like pictures a certain way, it's different than my taste, right? What you like is not maybe what I like, vice versa. We give you that option. Sony Pictures Sony Pictures Core calibrated mode, though, is content creators' taste, right? They're telling you this is what's best in our opinion, right? So keep that in mind. That's kind of all I got. That's a very simple way to walk through all this stuff. And yeah, but I'm going to look through the comments if there's anything else. Any other questions you guys have right now? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Drop that in the chat right now. I'll double check it. But yeah, if you guys got questions on this, I'll go back and, you know, if we're going to move forward and we're going to kind of wrap this up, all you got to do now is drop your questions into the comments so that we can go back and check the comments. Because once we kind of wrap up this live, the chat really is hard to go back to and kind of answer any questions for you guys. So drop your questions into the comments. That way we can kind of respond directly to you that way as well. So I don't see anything else kind of popping up here in terms of question wise. So I hope you guys learned a ton. Like I said, I tried to make this easy for you guys to really learn this stuff and kind of explain it in easier terms. So let me know how we did. But last thing I want to kind of touch about too is some future topics, right? So future topics we might have is, if you guys want to see us talk about this streaming with AirPlay or Google Casting, that might be something you want to drop that number one into the comments or chat. Google TV features and apps, that might be something cool to look at. Sony TV picture modes and presets, want to revisit that and kind of really go into kind of some further details about that. We can do that as well. And then obviously, you know, dealer's choice, whatever you guys want to see, you know, drop that into the comments. If there's something really, a burning question that you guys have about a Sony TV, you know, issue or topic you guys want to see us cover, 100% throw that in there, and you might see us, you know, talk about it in the future. Another thing I want to talk about too is registering your product. Again, this is all stuff that we offer to you once you register your products. All these tips, tricks, if there's any sort of like updates, things like that, we notify you about that. So please make sure you register your products, register your TV. You can get a lot of this information I talked about, easy access right there for you too. And then the last thing I'm going to cover real quick too is make sure, if this wasn't enough for you and you have even more questions and burning concerns with stuff, you can always sign up for a one-on-one consultation with a Sony expert. Gives you about 40 minutes worth of one-on-one time, so you can kind of really, you know, if you're scared to ask a question in the chat, you can go ahead and just have a conversation one-on-one with someone. So yeah, that's all I have. I don't see a ton of questions in there. 3, please. Lee says 3, so great, we got that. We know that at least one person wants to see number 3. Larry from Sony is helping with some questions about Dolby Vision. It's not on there, so there you go. I figured it's not on there, but you now have it from the man. Dolby Vision is not currently available on Sony Pictures Core. All right, that's it for me, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, share this channel, tell your friends, tell your family. Let's connect a lot more. Let's do a lot more of these. But until next time, guys, I'm Craig from Sony, and I'll catch you on the flip side here at Sony Simplified.